I'm Ashley.
And I'm Brady.
And we are the Cinema Twins, broadcasting live from Georgia College on WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
Welcome, movie fans. We're going to get right into our show today, starting off with our Now Playing segment. And we're just going to be talking about one movie today, and that's going to be Steve Jobs. We were very excited to see this movie in theaters, and Ashley, I know you're very eager to talk about the writing by Aaron Sorkin. Why don't you tell us what you loved about it?
Well, Aaron Sorkin, he has this way about him, like he doesn't write screenplays. He writes a symphony of words. That's exactly what it is. And from the very beginning, when Steve Jobs starts, it takes you on this journey with Steve Jobs and like going through this conference where he's about to unveil a product. And I think it's the one right after the Apple II. I can't exactly remember which computer it is. The Macintosh, yeah. That one. And it's just about them trying to get the computer to say hello and just get all of the stuff with the conference working right. And he's so controlling, and everything he says, because it's written by Aaron Sorkin, it's beautiful. I love it so much. It reminded me so much of The Social Network, also written by Aaron Sorkin. It was beautiful, and I thought you really got an insight into who Steve Jobs was and the way his mind worked, and it was amazing. What was your favorite part of it, Brady?
Well, it's honestly hard to pick a favorite part from the movie. I loved every second of it. It's a movie where you're just backstage, preparing for this conference that they're having, unveiling new products, and you go through 3 conferences. One in 1984, one in 1988, and then one in 1998.
And you know what my favorite part about that was? The way they shot it. With the technology advancing throughout the years, the first conference being shot in, I think, 16 millimeter, and then the next one being shot in 35 millimeter, and then the last section being shot on digital. It really emphasized the progress in technology and the progress in Steve Jobs. Because you see him grow, you don't see the growth, but you see the outcome of the growth because of the way it jumps around. And I feel like some people might be bothered by that, the fact that you really don't see that. But with the flashbacks that they tell, I thought it was a perfect way to tell this story. I love the straight up 3-act structure. That's amazing to me. And I honestly, the more I think about this movie, I think it was perfect. I don't think that anything else could have been done different. I bought the relationship between him and his daughter. I bought the relationship between him and Seth Rogen, even though you don't see the beginning of the relationship, but you see it. And Seth Rogen plays Steve Wozniak, if you haven't seen the movie or haven't heard of it. But everyone should see this movie because it is doing absolutely terrible at the box office, and that is just a shame because it's better than anything that's out this weekend. And that's for sure. It's amazing. See it.
Yeah, it's not completely bombing, but it's not doing as well as they had hoped that it would. I think that something that definitely hurt it was the fact that another Steve Jobs movie that wasn't good came out with Ashton Kutcher, and people normal casual moviegoers are going to be like, wait a second, didn't we just have a Jobs movie and it wasn't good? It was terrible. So
that Jobs movie wasn't written by Aaron Sorkin and directed by Danny Boyle, though.
Yeah, but casual moviegoers aren't going to know that, and they're not going to recognize that. And also, I think Michael Fassbender isn't a household name, so they're not going to be like, oh, well, Fassbender's in it, so I'll go see it like we were. But I really loved the way they shot it. I agree 100% about the how they shot it on the 16, 35, 70 millimeter. 35 and then digital. I really liked the visual progression throughout the story, and it's funny because you don't notice it. But also, a point I was going to make was that it's not like all these huge events are happening, really. You don't see the conferences at all, which some people might not like, but I thought it was great. Some people thought that they should have focused more on the iPod and the iPhone, but I disagree because I think that people who are going to see them, they know that story. Like, we've seen that. I mean, people my age, we've seen it. We know that story. We carry around iPhones all the time, which, yeah, would be cool to see that story on the big screen. But I really liked how they took it back to him growing his relationship with his daughter, because it was such a controversial type deal with him and his daughter, because he, denied that she was his.
Well, I think it would have been a major mistake had they focused on the iPod, because like you said, we all know that story, and that wasn't the heart of the movie. The heart of the movie was his relationship with those around him and how he treated them and how they responded to him. And I think that it would have been a wasted opportunity had they just focused on his genius in the field, which they did, and they hinted enough at the invention of the iPod and all of that stuff. And another thing, Brady, that I really loved about this movie was the cinematography.
I definitely agree, and I would definitely want to hear your thoughts on the cinematography in just a moment, but I was going to say that I agree, because if they had focused on the iPod and everything, you miss the most integral part of him in the company was when they kick him out and he's not part of Apple. You miss that conflict, and without conflict, you don't have a movie.
And I especially really like that part because you kind of get to see his genius, especially in that middle part of the movie.
Yes, definitely. So, Ashley, tell us about the cinematography.
The cinematography, the way this movie was shot, not only with the progressing technology and whatnot, but it's always moving. To me, there were barely any static shots. And so even though you're just hearing these people talk, the conversation, the dialogue is always moving. It's always fast paced. And so is the camera work at the same time. Like when you're following Steve Jobs, the walking, the talking. Aaron Sorkin does that very well. And just the way the camera would move around in a conversation. It was beautiful to watch. I really loved it.
And when the camera was still, you knew, whoa, okay, this is very serious. And particularly the scene that I'm thinking of is a scene where he's talking to, Steve Jobs is talking to Jeff Daniels' character, and they're sitting in this long empty room, and there's chairs and tables stacked, and it's just so beautiful, and they're having this very intense conversation, and in that moment the camera is still, but the actors are moving, and Steve Jobs is moving and screaming, and they're arguing about this and flashbacks, and it's really beautiful. And I think that it was good to have the camera still in that moment because of the flashbacks, because if you would have had the camera moving around and then a flashback, it would have been a little jarring, but it was just absolutely beautiful.
I adored the way it cut back and forth, but the way they intercut the flashbacks with the conversations that were going on in the present, it was so smart, and you got the bits of information that you needed. And my favorite thing about this movie is the kind of movie that makes you sit up. It makes you sit up in your chair and really pay attention to what these people are saying, because it's so fast paced that if you're not paying attention, you're probably going to miss something, which those are my favorite kind of movies. And every performance in this movie is out of the park. It's amazing. They all killed it. I loved every performance. I think my favorite, although Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs was phenomenal, Kate Winslet was so good.
She was
in this movie as his marketing manager. She was so powerful.
Yes, and she was so emotionally moving, seeing this person that has to deal with him every day, because he is someone that you kind of have to deal with and push past his strong personality, and he will not take no for an answer. He won't do it. And she has to deal with that every day. And the fact that you see her and she's stuck with him through everything, her character is fascinating in itself beside Steve Jobs. And also Kate Winslet's performance just made it so powerful, and you really felt for her. You're like, wow, I couldn't do the job that she does.
No way. I would have hit him probably, but that's what Aaron Sorkin does. He did this in The Social Network, one of my favorite movies of all time, directed by David Fincher, which we're probably about to talk about that. But the parallels between The Social Network and Steve Jobs, I mean, they're obvious. Like, both times Aaron Sorkin took these two characters, these people that they're not the best guys. They're not especially nice, you know, but he makes them so interesting, and like they're interesting people, but the way he writes, it sucks you in. You want to follow these characters, you want to see where they go, and you want to see them be mean, you know, at the same time. Like, it's fascinating the parallel between Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs in the movies. Not in real life. I don't know that much about either of them in real life, but these two movies are two of my favorites. Steve Jobs is one of my favorite of the year so far. It might be my favorite, like my favorite of the year. Up there with one of the movies that we're going to talk about later, but just riveting, the whole movie. So great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like The Social Network, I haven't seen it in a while. I need to go back and rewatch it.
I thought you were about to say you hadn't seen it. I was like, how are we sisters and you have not seen this movie?
No, I've definitely seen it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I definitely thought of it while I was watching Steve Jobs, and like it really brought me back. There's a lot more, and there was a lot of drama that happened around the movie Steve Jobs before it came out, because all these things with Sony went on, and David Fincher who directed The Social Network, was supposed to direct Steve Jobs, and then he dropped out because of I'm not sure why he dropped out. Well, do you know, Ashley?
I did read the emails. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. What I got from it was that Angelina Jolie, who was trying to get this Cleopatra movie made, really wanted David Fincher to direct her movie. And so she, from what I got from it, kind of pitched a fit and was like, well, no. And I haven't even heard anything about the Cleopatra movie now, but I don't know. Basically, that's what I got from it, that she kind of pitched a fit and was like, no, I want my my movie to be directed by David Fincher. But that's what I got from it. But, you know, well, it was a big deal.
Yeah, there was like a big mess that went on with Steve Jobs because, like I said, bottom line is that David Fincher was supposed to direct it. And then at one point, Christian Bale was said to be playing Steve Jobs, and then Leonardo DiCaprio was said to be playing Steve Jobs. And then it ended up on Michael Fassbender. And Michael Fassbender, he did amazing.
I don't think anybody else could have pulled it off like he did, honestly.
No, I think he was the perfect actor for this.
Yeah, and you know, another small thing that I noticed about the movie, and this isn't like a huge thing, but it kind of reminded me of Birdman. Kind of with the cinematography, the way it follows people, but it's not cut like Birdman is, like to make it look like one shot, but it just kind of getting to see the back, like the behind the stage. Behind the scenes, that's what I meant. The behind the scenes. Like, it reminded me of Birdman in that way, where you're just following these people trying to get this production on, you know? Like, it kind of reminded me of that, and I loved that because I loved Birdman.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying about that. And Birdman is such an interesting piece to watch, because Birdman, I would think, is more of a commentary on critics today and the difference between big blockbusters and small indie films. So I think Birdman's much more, you compared, I'm going to contrast. Birdman was more of a commentary on things that are going on.
It was more broad.
Yeah, and Steve Jobs is more of a look into a specific times in Steve Jobs' life.
Well, I mean, it is a biopic, so it is going to be about this specific person. I just thought the way the behind-the-scenes stuff was handled reminded me of Birdman, because it's like you're following these people just a little bit, though, and I just thought I'd bring it up because Birdman's awesome.
Oh, definitely. And if anyone hasn't seen Birdman, I would definitely go check that out also. It's great. But everyone, please go see Steve Jobs if you can. I know it's not playing here in Milledgeville. Again, this one is playing in Macon. It's great. Everyone should go see it. It's a crime that more people have not seen this movie in theaters.
Literally criminal. It is criminal. More people need to see this movie. It's going to be one of those movies that everybody looks back and they're like, man, I wish I could have seen that in theaters. Not because of like any big explosions or stuff like that, but because seeing something like that in the theaters is magic. Because you're just sitting there on this big screen in the complete dark, unless somebody pulls their phone out, you know, which is super annoying. Don't pull your phone out of the movie. But
yeah, maybe we'll go into theater etiquette at a different time. But it's a great movie and definitely one worth seeing in the theaters, and it's worth your money. You're not going to be bored in this movie. Aaron Sorkin's writing is just electric, and it just catches you, and you're on the edge of your seat even though nothing action wise is happening. There's not like,
well, they fight with their words.
Yes.
Like, I wish all of my arguments were written by Aaron Sorkin, because he's got some good jabs. Like, you never know who wins in an Aaron Sorkin argument.
I definitely agree, Ashley. He makes every one of his characters so smart, and it's really great to watch. I think we can move on. We just have one upcoming movie that we would really like to mention today, The Hateful Eight. It's Quentin Tarantino's 8th film. And it's coming out in limited release on Christmas.
In 70 millimeter.
Yes, in 70 millimeter. So that will be beautiful.
We're not going to get to see it, though. We're going to be seeing The Revenant.
Yeah. But the Hateful Eight trailer has come out, and the cast alone is just incredible.
Kurt Russell's stash, man.
Yes, the stash on Kurt Russell is quite impressive. But with Kurt Russell, Samuel L. Jackson's back, and Samuel L. Jackson was in his last movie, Django Unchained, which he was absolutely hilarious. He stood out so much.
Who you calling Snowball? Such a good movie.
Yes. Django's definitely one. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. Classic Tarantino. It's so funny, over the top, gory. It's great. If you like if you're a Tarantino fan, Django is honestly, I know everyone is like, Pulp Fiction, but Django's my favorite Tarantino
Django's my
movie.
favorite too.
Another great Tarantino film to check out if you haven't seen it is his first one is Reservoir Dogs. And it's amazing. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I wish it was longer. But the more I thought about it, I loved the way that it plays as a short story.
And, speaking of Reservoir Dogs, that movie is a small, contained movie. And, to me, The Hateful Eight feels like Reservoir Dogs, but a Western. Because it's all these 8 people, and they're in this cabin. I don't think they're going to be in the cabin the whole time. But it does kind of feel like that, and maybe somebody isn't who they say they are, or something like that. It really does feel like Reservoir Dogs, but mixed with Django. And those are my 2 favorite Quentin Tarantino movies, and I cannot wait to see this movie. I'm going to see it the second it comes out in wide release.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'll be there as soon as possible, because I was so sad when I had to wait so long to see Django, because I could just never get around to seeing it. But in the trailer, what I love about the trailer is that you don't fully know the story. There's a guy who's a bounty hunter, and he's found this woman. He's taking her out to hang, is what he says. And
the hangman.
Yeah. And so you don't fully know what the story is, but they do say in the trailer, someone's not who they say they are. So it's like a mystery kind of movie in a Western setting. It looks like it's going to be absolutely great.
A lot of fun. We're going to head right into our Should You Stream It segment. And Brady has picked Nightcrawler this week, and it is available on Netflix. And Brady, why don't you tell us what Nightcrawler is about?
Okay. Nightcrawler is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, as I discussed last week. He's my favorite actor right now.
Wow, I wonder why you picked it.
Well, not only because of Jake Gyllenhaal. Let me tell you, this was one of my favorite movies of 2014. I think it was horribly underrepresented at the Oscars.
I can't talk about it.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic movie. And what it's about this man named Lou Bloom. And Lou Bloom is kind of like a sketchy kind of, he's a very sketchy kind of guy. You can tell from the very beginning. And he comes across this camera crew at the scene of an accident. And he asks them what they do. And he finds out that it's a job called Nightcrawler. And what night crawlers do is they, have cameras and they listen to police scans. Sorry. And after they listen to the police scans, they try and get to an accident or a fire or an event as quick as possible to catch it on camera. And then they take that footage and they sell it to news stations. And so Jake Gyllenhaal, playing Lou Bloom, gets into this profession, starting out kind of small, he's not great, but then he gets really good at it, too good at it. he gets too good at this job, and he develops a relationship with a specific woman not a romantic relationship, but with a woman at this news station who's buying these films from him, and he starts to kind of go down a very dark path very quickly with this career. And you definitely want to see it. I'm not going to talk any more about the plot really, because it's definitely one that you want to see and experience because it's such a chilling story. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is definitely the standout part of this movie. It's all fantastic, but Jake Gyllenhaal is the star.
Mm-hmm. Also, the screenplay. The screenplay was really the best thing about the movie other than his performance, but it's like the way he talks in that movie with the clipped speech, and he has dead eyes. You cannot see a person inside of there. I know that I've heard him talk about Jake Gyllenhaal when he was preparing for the movie. He would run around Los Angeles at night because he thought of Lou as a coyote. And you just see this character go down this rabbit hole, and it's really a shocking and dark experience. But my favorite thing about it is how funny it manages to be while being this dark. It's a dark humor, like in American Psycho, kind of. It's that kind of dark humor.
Yeah, but don't make the mistake of for you listening, it's not a dark comedy. Mm-hmm. It has dark humor because Lou Bloom is such an awkward character. Like, he's so socially awkward. And the way he speaks and talks, you know that he doesn't know how to normally interact with people. And about the screenplay, definitely, I noticed it when I was watching the movie, and when I left, I know, Ashley, you and I both kind of looked at each other and we were like, that screenplay was flawless. Mm-hmm. It was perfect. It was the best screenplay to me all year, along with Grand Budapest Hotel and Birdman.
Which won?
Yeah, Birdman did win the Oscar for Best Screenplay, but and that was Nightcrawler was nominated for Best Screenplay, but unfortunately it didn't win. But it was fantastic, and Jake Gyllenhaal's transformations that he manages to pull off with his performances, he gets so invested in every single role that he takes on.
He's gonna bring it in every single movie he's in.
Yeah, you never see Jake Gyllenhaal film and think, oh, I mean, he was doing okay in that movie. Like, I've never watched Jake Gyllenhaal in a movie where I thought that he did not absolutely put his all into the movie. He did Nightcrawler, where he lost a lot of weight, not to focus on the fact that he lost weight, because that's kind of what a lot of people always talk about rather than how amazing they actually do as an actor. But he did lose a lot of weight for this role, and then he went and made Southpaw, where he beefed up and is absolutely...
He's huge in that movie.
Yes, he's huge in Southpaw, and it's just amazing the amount of effort and the amount of dedication that Jake Gyllenhaal has to his job. And in Nightcrawler, it's definitely... how much he prepared for this role, because you can tell he feels it and he has become this person. I watched this movie and I did not see Jake Gyllenhaal. I saw Lou Bloom, the creepiest man I've ever witnessed.
And that's hard for you to do, Brady, to not see Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, especially for me, watching it and not seeing Jake Gyllenhaal, I was like, wow, he's really bringing it in this, because I always notice my man, Jake Gyllenhaal. And another thing that I was going to say about the story is that at the end of this movie, you are on the edge of your seat. You are glued to the screen. It is impossible for you to look away. You are terrified of what might happen and what Lou Bloom might do.
Maybe my problem isn't that I don't understand people. It's that I don't like them. The movie is chilling. You guys, you have to see it if you have not seen this movie.
Ashley was quoting the movie there. She does that quite a bit, which is great. We love the movie quotes. We speak in them half the time.
Actually, we speak in The Office quotes, but, also some movies.
The Office, a.k.a. the best comedy to ever be on television. No
Yes.
one will ever tell me otherwise. The Office will always be my favorite. All right, Ashley, you wanted to talk about 1 Hour Photo, which I have not seen. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions about it. What is 1 Hour Photo about, and where can people find it to stream?
Okay, the streaming is a little bit less available for 1 Hour Photo, but if you have a Vudu account, if you don't have a Vudu account, make one. It costs nothing. You just go on there, you make the account. But then
You told us, Ashley, you told us about Vudu last week. It's no subscription, right?
Yeah, no subscription.
Yeah, you just pay each time you want to watch a movie.
Each time you want to watch a movie, and it's like $3. $3 to rent this movie. It is Robin Williams plays this guy who works at a 1 Hour Photo booth in a grocery store. Well, grocery store. It's, like a supermarket. And he works there, and then like he kind of like he runs it, but like you can kind of tell he's not on good footing with his boss, really, and he develops these people's photos, and he likes doing it, and in the movie he explains the value of a good picture, and it's really beautifully written. I really love the screenplay for this as well. And the reason it reminded me of Nightcrawler is because he is also a creepy, creepy dude. Like, you see him, and then this family comes in, and they get their photos
Ashley,
developed.
Is it Robin Williams?
Robin Williams.
Okay.
He's in it. It is a role like I have never seen him in before. He is chilling in this movie. And so this family comes in, and they're like, hey, we need 2 copies. But you see him make 3 copies. And so turns out he's kind of keeping some of these copies for himself. And maybe I don't want to go too much into the plot because, it's something that you need to unfold along with the movie. There's no like big moments, but like it's just a really great movie with a great performance from Robin Williams. I had little to no qualms with this movie. It is not as good as Nightcrawler, but it manages to capture that same tone as Nightcrawler. And I think that, especially as a Robin Williams fan, I kind of got on a Robin Williams kick the other day and I watched Good Will Hunting for the first time since his death, and it tore me up. And then this movie helped me be less torn up. No, it's just great to see somebody who's good at what they do. And that's what Robin Williams is. He was good at acting.
Ashley, yeah, and it's great to watch someone who's invested in the job that they're doing, and both Robin Williams and Jake Gyllenhaal embody that. They are so invested in their jobs as actors, and Robin Williams as a comedian, but obviously with this movie, I can tell by the way you're talking about it that he's not just a comedian actor. He can do everything.
He's truly terrifying in this movie, and
that's one of the best things about Robin Williams.
And I did this as should you stream it as opposed to movies you might have missed, but literally I have never met anyone who's seen this movie.
Ashley, I had never even heard of it.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that you've brought it up because I'll definitely be checking it out soon.
It's so great. Warning, it's weird. And I know that weird movies can sometimes turn some people off to them, and I feel like every movie we have that we're going to be talking about is kind of weird, and like Nightcrawler's a little bit strange, and I know that can turn some people off, but if you can just embrace the screenplay and everything that Robin Williams is doing in this movie, not the character, but the actor, with his performance, then I really think that people will appreciate this movie.
Yeah, and I definitely think that today specifically, the movies that we're talking about are films that you're really going to want to be able to appreciate film as an art form. And that's what I do. Like, that's what I see film as. I see film as art. Because it is. I mean, like, people are putting their heart and soul into these movies. And sometimes the darker parts of their heart and soul, clearly with some of these films. But, like, Nightcrawler, when someone writes and directs a movie, you know they have their heart in it, and you know that that's like their child, and that's what
Dan Gilroy,
thank you, Ashley, for reminding me of his name. That's what he did with Nightcrawler, and it was a very small budget movie. I think it was $7 million, which is small.
I think 7 to 10,
which is tiny for a movie,
especially for one that was as beautiful. The car chases, yeah, I didn't want to. It doesn't give anything away. He's in a car. The way that it's shot, it is beautiful, and like it's not like that action that's like shaky and you can't really see anything, even though he is running around with a camcorder.
It's very smooth.
Yeah, it's so smooth.
It's beautiful.
I love it. But I think that with the comparison between Nightcrawler and 1 Hour Photo, I think you should watch them as a pair. I think it'd be a cool, creepy night for somebody just to sit down, watch Nightcrawler on Netflix, and then to watch 1 Hour Photo. It's really good, and people should see it.
Well, Ashley, maybe me and you can do that sometime soon. I would love to have that little double feature night with you. The next segment that we're going to go into is our Movies You Might Have Missed segment. All right, get ready to listen to me talk about Jake Gyllenhaal again. Double Jake Gyllenhaal in the film that I'm actually mentioning. I want to talk about Enemy, which you might have heard us mention it last week as we talked about Denis Villeneuve and his direction of Sicario and Prisoners. Enemy is actually Denis Villeneuve's first American film. He actually directed it before he directed Prisoners, but it came out after Prisoners because it came out in 2014, I think. And I think Prisoners was a 2013 film. It was. Now, Enemy is very strange, and it's hard to grasp, kind of. You have to watch it more than once, definitely. I want to be a little vague about the plot, only because it's something you need to see. You need to experience it on your own and go through the crazy thoughts that I went through, because I watched this movie and I was almost halfway through it. I was like, wait, what's happening? I thought I was grasping something, and then a specific character says a line, and I was like, the whole movie's changed. What's going on?
It really pulls the rug out from under you. And like, talk about being vague about the plot. The movie itself is kind of vague about the plot, because it's not technically a linear storyline. I don't want to say too much, just because it's a confusing movie. Everyone should know that. It is a confusing movie, and there is no aha moment. Yeah. There's no moment at the end where you're like, oh, everything makes sense. That will not happen to you in this movie. You will have to research it, which is amazing. I've seen the movie 4 times, and I think I kind of grasp it now. It's hard to understand, but it's a beautiful movie.
So I would say don't let the fact that it is really hard to grasp turn you off from the movie. However, if you are someone who prefers a movie that does give you the aha moment, then this movie might not be for you, because this movie, as I was talking about before, is definitely a piece of work. It's more of an art house type film that if you like those kinds of movies, and this is something you're going to want to check out, because it gets you thinking. Like, it makes you think about the movie, and it makes you want to learn more about the movie. And it's funny because Denis Villeneuve, from my point of view, I think he wants you to interpret it on your own, simply because in like the commentary and things like that, people have asked him, so what is this movie about? And he kind of says, he makes a joke and he says, oh, it's about Jake Gyllenhaal's subconscious mind. And he makes that joke. So I think he's wanting you to search into it and rewatch it and figure it out and figure out what's going through Jake Gyllenhaal's mind in this movie. Now, I did not mention the plot yet, which I will briefly summarize what it's about. So Jake Gyllenhaal plays this history professor, and one day at work, a coworker simply like offhandedly mentions a movie that he should watch. And so he goes out and rents this movie, and when he comes back home to watch it, he sees an extra in the background that looks just like him. And so he researches this guy and finds out that he lives nearby. And so he becomes kind of obsessed with finding out who this guy is and what he does and like everything like that. And when they finally meet, their lives become kind of intertwined, and you have to, it's a thrill ride from there because it gets very confusing because Jake Gyllenhaal plays both of these characters, and his performance is incredible. The subtle things that he does and the subtle little ticks that he has for each character lets you know who he is playing at that moment, and it's absolutely fascinating to watch, again, someone who is that good at their job. And the fact that he can do that, and that I can see who he is based on the way he combs his hair or what he does with his hands
or how he stands. It's everything about Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is perfect in this movie. You see the work that he put into really creating these two characters, and with the plot, even though there is no aha moment, I feel like once you've watched it twice, you really can grasp more of the plot-driven elements of the movie, but there are some metaphors and some symbolism in there involving spiders. But talk about a weird movie, actually. We were talking about how weird some of these movies are. This is definitely one of the stranger ones that I've seen, just because of the symbolism of spiders. And I think that some people might call this movie pretentious. I am not one of those people. It is one of my favorite movies. Like, it's fascinating to me, but that might turn some people off. That it's a little bit, I guess, yeah, that's really the only word you can use to describe it. It's pretentious, but in the best way.
Art house.
Art house,
Come
exactly.
on, I said it. It's an art house film.
If you are somebody who enjoyed Drive, and, you know, how that movie's a little bit like that, Drive is. But I think if you really enjoy art, then you will like this movie. Or if you enjoy looking at Jake Gyllenhaal, because there's two of him, so.
I definitely agree, yes. And, I mean, come on, Ashley, let's be real. Who doesn't enjoy looking at Jake Gyllenhaal?
Silly people.
Yes, agreed. But yeah, Enemy, definitely check it out. Like I said, if you like the art house type movies and you perceive film as an art form, then you're definitely going to be able to appreciate that about Enemy, and even more so on the second viewing, because instead of just watching it one time and being kind of confused and trying to figure out what's going on, you know what's going on, kind of, and you can focus more on like the artistic elements and how beautiful and amazing this film is with its performances and the look of it and the tone that Denis Villeneuve sets. Again, Denis Villeneuve is just incredible with what he can do in his films.
He's honestly a genius. Like we said last week, he is going to be up there in the top directors of today, really. Like, every movie he does draws you in. It's just, he's a fantastic filmmaker. He's one of my favorites right now. I will watch literally everything he does.
I was surprised to see, I was actually, I'm in a computer art class right now, and we watched a short film, and as the credits were rolling at the beginning, it said a film by Denis Villeneuve, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was so excited as soon as I saw that, and it was the same tone. It was very ominous, and I could tell. I was like, yes, I can definitely see how this was made by Denis Villeneuve, and it was a really interesting short film with, I think, another one of those stories that Denis Villeneuve wants you to interpret on your own and figure out by yourself. It's called Next Floor. I'm not sure where to find it. I don't know where our professor showed us. I don't know where he got it from, but it was very interesting. So you could look that up. Next Floor. It's very short. Now, Ashley, for movies you might have missed, I know this one actually came out in February of this year. Tell us about Ex Machina.
Okay, Ex Machina. You're right. It came out in February. It is an amazing movie. I do not know who directed it, but it stars Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac, who are both going to be in the new Star Wars. And I really went in this movie not knowing much about it. The trailers, I would say don't watch the trailer for Ex Machina. I would say just go in clean. What it's about is this guy, played by Domhnall Gleeson, he wins a contest at his work to go visit basically the creator of their company, which the company is called Blue Book in the movie. It's basically Google, but like they couldn't call it Google.
It's a search engine.
Yeah, it's a search engine. So like the guy who invented Google, basically, he wins a competition to go to his house and like work on something with him, but he's not sure what it is. And when he gets there, he finds out that this guy has created an AI, which is artificial intelligence. So a sentient being, and he has to perform the Turing test, which is basically if somebody is talking to a computer and they don't know it's a computer, then it has passed the Turing test and it is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and Ashley, I just looked it up on IMDb, and the writer and director of this movie is Alex Garland. So as we mentioned earlier, it's going to be one of those films that when someone writes and directs something, then their heart is really in it.
I knew he did 28 Days Later. He did 28 Days Later, by the way. Wow, that's super interesting. I didn't realize that while I was watching the movie, but my favorite thing about this movie is I think the performances and the cinematography, because I have heard some of my friends who saw the movie, they were like, well, I didn't think the performances were that great. They said that Domhnall Gleeson seemed robotic. People, the movie is about AI, and it sets this tone for you where you really question yourself. You're like, am I a robot? That's what this movie makes you feel like.
To be clear, Domhnall Gleeson isn't the AI in the movie. He's the person testing the AI in the movie. But his performance is kind of robotic, I think, to reflect what the film is about and to reflect maybe why this AI, is willing to talk to him and likes him, I think that contributed to the relationship that the AI and Domhnall Gleeson build.
Mm-hmm. The AI, her name is Ava in the movie, and she is played by Alicia Vikander, who did a phenomenal job playing a robot. Like the way she speaks is sort of clipped, and it's honestly amazing that she was able, it doesn't sound weird or dumb. Like it sounds like, I feel like an AI, like it sounds like a computer, but still with human elements to it.
Yeah, and the way that she performed it, and the way it was written, obviously, is very smooth. But you can tell by the way that it's written and how she performs it, as I just said, that she hasn't learned these things. She just knows these things because she is a computer. So she just has this in her mind, but she doesn't know where it came from, and she doesn't have the basis of social interaction of any of the things that normal humans have.
Mm-hmm. And like I was saying about the cinematography, it was just so beautiful because it's very mechanical. Like everything in this movie, I feel like is intentional. It makes an effort to feel mechanical at times, but when the cinematography becomes intimate, it is because the characters are learning something, or like in the movie, she has kind of more of an intimate moment. And the camera really gets up close and it's handheld instead of on a tripod or a dolly. It's really genius the way that this movie was shot, because you feel the emotion when you need to, and then it puts you on edge when it needs to at the same time.
Yeah, I think you told me while we were watching it, the first time you see a handheld shot, you were like, there's only handheld shots in the movie when a character learns something. I thought that was really interesting, and I love how you picked up on that.
Or that's what it seemed like to me. I'm not sure. I don't know how they shot the film, but to me it looked like that. So, what was your favorite part of Ex Machina? Because I know that you just watched it last night, Brady.
Yeah, I just watched it, and it really shook me watching the movie. And it made me think, wow, I really hope nobody makes AI. I don't want any of this to become reality. It was terrifying to think that someone, obviously it's fiction, but to think that in the future someone could come up with this technology to put it inside a robot. and with the implications that could have, and like what would happen if we just had robots walking around everywhere and you didn't know that they were robots. Like what would that do? Like if Ava did pass the Turing test, like what could that do for our society?
It does put those questions in your head, and it is pretty terrifying, and there's some scary parts in the movie. I won't say that it's like a horror movie, but there's some creepy imagery. The sound design, especially at some points, it really gets in your head.
Yeah, I mentioned to you that like the ambient noises in the movie are very loud, and then I think there's only 1 or 2 songs in the movie. Like it's just a lot of ambient noises that really get under your skin. And when I was watching it, I would say that this movie is more, it freaked me out more than a lot of horror movies I've seen. Like this one really psychologically is like messing with you, and it scares you about the possibility of AI.
Well, another thing that we didn't mention was the way she looks. Like I can't explain it, but you can tell she's a robot. Like when you meet her, like you're like, oh, okay, there's a human face, but that's a robot.
Because she's not complete.
Yeah, because she's not complete.
She doesn't have all the skin on her. It's hard to explain.
You look up, Google a picture, just Ex Machina Ava. Second thought, don't do that. Look at the poster. It might give something away. Second thought, do not do that. I take it back. But what I mean to say is the visual effects. It looks great. Like it looks believable. I thought, I want to know how they did that.
It looks like someone created an AI in a facility, and that this is how they look. Like this is how it would happen in real life. Like it's very believable, even though you know that this is something that's not possible.
And I think another thing that we need to mention, we did mention Domhnall Gleeson's performance. Oscar Isaac has this likable but kind of weird, kind of creepy vibe to him, and you don't know if to trust him. I don't know. He really blew me away in that movie. He blows me away in everything, but
you definitely don't know how to feel about him in that movie. And correct me if I'm wrong, he's in the Coen Brothers movie
Inside Llewyn Davis.
I have yet to watch it,
and I got that movie for you for Christmas, and you still haven't seen it.
I know. I'm so sorry. I will definitely be watching it very soon. All right.
Well, I think that's all we have for you guys today.
Yeah, that's about it for the Cinema Twins. Thank you so much for listening.